Trust is the foundation of modern software development. When we import a library, we assume it is safe. We assume the author is who they say they are. We assume the code has not been tampered with. This trust allows the entire digital economy to function at the speed it does. But what happens when that trust is weaponized against us? We are talking about the Axios incident, a significant supply chain attack targeting the popular Hypertext Transfer Protocol client library was identified on the Node Package Manager registry. The timeline is specific. March 31, 2026. Malicious versions 1.14, 11, and 130.4 were released. These compromised packages introduced a fake dependency. The name was plain Crypto.js version 4.11. This package silently installed a cross-platform remote access Trojan. It could infect Windows, macOS, and Linux systems. This incident underscores the critical risks of dependency injection within open-source ecosystems. Attackers compromised trusted libraries to distribute malware widely. Here is the thing. The attack utilized a sophisticated supply chain compromise where malicious code was injected into legitimate versions of the Axios package. This enabled remote access Trojans to be dropped on thousands of downstream projects without immediate detection. Threat actors employed a living off-the-land technique by using the compromised Axios library to fetch and execute malicious payloads from external servers. This blurs the line between trusted dependencies and active threats. The incident highlights a critical vulnerability in the Node Package Manager ecosystem release process. It suggests that attackers targeted the package maintainer credentials to bypass standard security checks and versioning controls. Now consider the forensic angle. How do we detect this in the dark? We search for signatures. The Remote Access Trojan payload has specific behavioral markers. It does not just sit there, it reaches out. It initiates connections to command and control servers. It attempts to exfiltrate credentials from the build environments. In a standard audit, you might check the version number. But if the version number is legitimate, you might miss the malicious code inside. This is why we need custom Yarn or Node Package Manager audit rules. We need to detect similar supply chain anomalies before execution. To write these rules, we must think about what the package is actually doing. We are not just checking for a bad version, we are checking for suspicious behavior. For example, a rule might flag any package that depends on a library with a history of supply chain issues. Or a rule might scan the dependency tree for packages that are not pinned to a specific version hash. This ensures that even if the version number is correct, the content has not changed. We need to verify the integrity of the download. Imagine a locked vault. The version number is the key. But what if the key fits the lock, but the vault contains a bomb? The version number alone does not guarantee safety. We need to check the digital signature. We need to ensure that the code inside matches the code that was approved by the maintainer. If the maintainer credentials were compromised, the signature might still be valid. This is why we must examine the behavior of the dependency. Does it make network requests it should not? Does it access files outside its designated directory? The immediate action requires developers to audit their lockfiles for specific compromised version ranges. They must rotate any exposed secrets. The Trojan may have already exfiltrated credentials. Future implications suggest an increased likelihood of similar watering hole attacks targeting popular, low-level utility libraries. This allows for maximum lateral movement within software supply chains. We must treat every dependency as potentially hostile until proven otherwise. Writing a custom audit rule involves defining a set of conditions that trigger a failure. You might define a rule that blocks any new dependency that has not been reviewed by a security team. You might define a rule that flags any package that requests network access during the installation phase. This stops the remote access Trojan before it can establish a connection. It forces the developer to intervene. It breaks the automation that the attacker relies on. Here is the thing. We cannot rely solely on the registry to protect us. The registry is a marketplace. It lists the goods. It does not inspect every item for hidden defects. That is the responsibility of the consumer. By writing custom audit rules, you become the inspector. You define the standards. You decide what is acceptable. This shifts the burden of security from the platform to the practitioner. It is a heavier load, but it is the only way to ensure safety in an ecosystem where trust is frequently violated. The specific payload signatures dropped in the malicious Axios versions are the key to detection. If you can identify the unique strings or behaviors associated with the plain Crypto.js package, you can build a filter. You can tell your system to reject anything that matches those signatures. This requires a deep understanding of the code. You must know what normal behavior looks like. You must know what abnormal behavior looks like. This knowledge allows you to write rules that are specific enough to catch the threat without causing false positives that slow down development. Consider the mechanics of the infection. The malicious package does not execute immediately upon installation. It waits. It lies dormant until a specific trigger occurs. This could be a specific file creation, a specific time of day, or a specific network request. This dormancy makes it harder to detect with static analysis. You need dynamic analysis or behavioral monitoring to catch it. The audit rule must account for this. It must not just check the file size or the hash. It must check the intent. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.